Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Today, we are discussing a long-running classic, or perhaps I should say classique, from Breguet. This is the Classique 5177 BR with Grand Faux enamel dial. So it's rose gold Grand Faux enamel dial, fired in a kiln up to 20 times at 800 degrees centigrade. You can see it is glossy, glassy, vitreous, and very traditional. In a case that is in rose gold, 38 millimeters in diameter, 9.1 millimeters thick, 46.2 from lug to lug with a 20 millimeter spacing in between the lugs. I've thrown it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference. The strap is very stiff because it's not broken in. So please don't mind the fact that the watch looks almost as broad as my wrist. My wrist is being constrained. As you can see, it's a thin watch. It'll slide easily under a cuff. Now, just looking at where the lugs are across the wrist and down the barrel, I have plenty of clearance. This watch would wear easily on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. Mine is 16, so just use that as a reference. But keep in mind, this strap is brand new. It is not very flexible because that's how gator always starts out. Just keep in mind, it will loosen up with time. But you do want this kind of gator, large rectangular symmetrical scales. That is the best and most expensive cut of the beast. Semi-gloss in black. You can see we have a folded edge. We have a monotone stitch, calfskin on the bottom, a brand new Breguet factory strap, neither crimped nor gouged, a evocative Breguet buckle, which you can see features a screw and bar fixture. So a screw and a bar used to retain the buckle on the strap. And then you can see we have screws, bars, and set screws used to retain the strap to the case. And I love seeing that. I've seen too many disasters with spring bars. That doesn't happen with screws and bars. And this setup costs more to manufacture, but you get more, and this watch is worth it. You can see the lugs are also welded on, which is a beautiful way and a very traditional and laborious way to assemble a case. That's how they're able to get this super sharp break between lug and case. You can also see the coining of the case flank. That's achieved by cold rolling the case and then hand finishing it in a jig. We have a domed case back and a domed bezel that are largely mirrors of each other, and the flange of each helps to find the mid case. You can see the watch features a Breguet branded crown, and then there's a little recess underneath to dig your nail in to remove the crown for setting. The watch is 30 meters water resistant, so the dress watch standard. Don't take it swimming. The dial sits under a slightly cambered sapphire, and it is a Grand Faux enamel dial, yes. So 800 degrees Celsius is required to take the glass-based paint, the vitreous paint, and actually melt it down onto a solid gold base. This is an ancient craft. It's very volatile in the sense that at any one of the up to 20 firings of the dial, the glass could suffer from a gas bubble or crack or explode. So traditionally with enamel, not only does it require a lot of skill and experience, but the rejection rates can be high, which is why these types of dials are highly desirable. But at the same time, because they are glass-based, they simply don't oxidize, tarnish, discolor, fade, or age, so their lasting beauty is a huge part of their appeal, and it is one of the reasons why the trouble of making them is worth it. We have these lovely Breguet-style numerals, and then you can see alternating index shapes. You can see there are 3 distinct index shapes on the dial. We have a nice little trapezoidal and faceted aperture for the date, and then the numerals of the date are actually tapered to match the shape of the window. Some people prefer not to have a date on a dress watch. I prefer to wear my watches. As a result, I like to have running seconds. I like to have a date. I like as much information as I can get. That's why I also own calendar watches. If you're going to do a date on a watch, I think this is the way to do it, with a window that features a disc the same color as the dial and a window that does not replace a numeral. You can also see the hands at center are fired blue steel with a slightly rolled seconds hand, so when viewed from the front, there's no apparent distortion. You can also see they are Breguet-style hands, modeled after those designed by the master himself in his lifetime. A couple of subsidiary setting modes. One is hacking second. You can stop the seconds hand and set the watch to a reference time. And then the other is that we have a quick set mechanism so we can rapidly set the date, which you'll note uses a wonderfully serify font. Turning it all over, now we have caliber 777Q. So a few things to note. It is very nicely decorated. Highlights include particularly broad and mirrored bevels, the 2 sharp interior angles adjacent to the escapement, and then the engine-turned gold rotor. Now, if you look carefully, you can see that the Breguet letters, they're machined in with a drill, and you can see some artifacts of that. But the guilloche of the rotor itself appears to be manual and the real deal. The stripes are particularly well detailed across the bridges. They look good. The engravings are appealing. 26 joule movement, automatic winding, 4 hertz beat rate, 55-hour power reserve, hacking, quickset. And you can see that it features a free-sprung oscillator so that the adjustments for fine timing correction are done using the screws on the balance. Not only is this more shock resistant, but allows for a much more precise setting than a mobile stud index. Don't know how well you can see this, but there is a full silicone escapement that reduces the mass, reduces the friction, reduces the susceptibility to magnetism. One thing, though, that they do not do is they don't go all the way with the silicone. It still does use synthetic ruby palette stones, a particular decision that Breguet has deployed across many of its synthetic silicone movements. So the silicone escapement here is part of the silicone movement scheme that's combined with the silicone hairspring. So again, in combination, extreme resilience against magnetism, and in the case of the anchor and the escape wheel, also reducing the oscillating mass. So we also have these lovely bevels within the jewel sinks, as you can see. There's engine turning in several sizes. See if I can get it in focus. On the base plate, we have polished screw heads with chamfered slots and circumference. The bevels are all quite attractive. Difficult to see, but every once in a while you could see that the wheel adjacent to the balance actually has a tapered spoke design similar to a vintage Breguet watch. And if you look very carefully, you can see that the silicone escapement has a bridge below the balance cock, and that bridge is satinated on its top and beveled on its side. A rare example of one of these substructures being really well decorated. And oftentimes out of sight, out of mind is the philosophy, even with high luxury watchmakers. Not here. Well done, Breguet. You can also see that the stud holder, as well as the fixing screw across from it, they're mirror finished. We have solarization atop the ball bearing. This is a bi-directional winding movement. A great looking watch and a modern classic, or perhaps I should say classique. If you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.